Welcome to the Broncos podcast with Troy Renck. I am your host, Troy Renck from the Denver Post. Thank you so much from wherever you're joining me, on your laptop, in your car, maybe just listening on your phone, taking the dog for the walk like I just did with the Bulldog Bentley. It's been a great week, the start of the Broncos acclimation period, and now here on Friday as I'm broadcasting will be the first open practice for fans, 800 fans in the bleachers above the brick wall. Above that would be the south end zone side. So hopefully it's not too bad for fans. It's not ideal, but it's a one-year deal as they're finishing the Broncos headquarters, which just have really are coming along nicely. If you want to understand where the Broncos are going, just look over to your left when you're in those bleachers, because while some may see excess, I see a desire for excellence, to be the best at everything. And that's part of what this podcast is today. Sean Payton, is he Mike Shanahan with cooler Jordan brand sneakers? And are people selling Bo Nix short? Sean Payton said something about that really intrigued me, and something else happened in the media that makes me believe he's right. And what are some of the early camp observations? It's acclimation period, so you take it, certainly understand the context. But let's hear about, is Payton the new Shanahan? And Bo Nix? Have we been underrating him? We're going to get to all of that after the break. Have you been hurt in a car wreck or injured at work? What are you waiting for? Give my friends at Hoggatt Injury Law a call. Their motto with us, it's personal. That's because it is. I've known Darby Hoggatt forever. We traveled around the country watching our boys play baseball. I coached his son Jet in hoops. He's a huge sports fan, a huge Broncos fan. I became his good friend. Many of his clients become his good friend. You don't even have to pay Darby up front. He waits until that case gets settled. He will fight for you. That's how Darby is. So again, if you've been hurt in a car wreck or injured at work, what are you waiting for? Give Darby's team a call, 1-833-464-4288. That number again, 1-833-464-4288, or go to the website at hoggattlaw.com. Welcome back to the Broncos Pod. I'm your host, Troy Renck from the Denver Post. If you want to see my coverage this week on this topic, you can go to denverpost.com/sports, hit the columnist tag at the top there, and that's where all my columns are. I've done a lot of Nugget stuff recently, but certainly Broncos will be an emphasis as we move here into training camp. And I wrote about the idea that, is Sean Payton Mike Shanahan with cooler Jordan brand sneakers? And I say Jordan brand sneakers not as just an ad lib to put in there. He has a deal. He's the only coach with a deal with Jordan sneakers. He's met Michael Jordan, knows him, a big golfer. Pat Surtain is now part of the Jordan brand family, so maybe those two can see who has the coolest kicks during training camp. But it was interesting. I fully expected, and you know from this pod, when Sean Payton addressed the media earlier this week, for him to be grumpy or curmudgeon, not suffer fools well. There was a little bit of that, but way more analytical, way more open-minded, way more receptive. He did a 30-minute press conference. Typically, press conferences, so you understand, are about, for the head coach, the first one in the week, like the Wednesday one, where you're getting a lot of updates, usually around 8 to 12 minutes. This one was 30. Last year, he was in a hurry. Even his hair was in a hurry last year. He didn't want to be there. He couldn't get out of there fast enough for this opening press conference before camp. Totally different this time around. And I thought it set a good tone for it. And whether he wants to be grumpy or not, that's on him. And again, I never take that personally. That's part of his Bill Parcells coaching tree. Wants people to be uncomfortable. He wants people to understand that when you're trying to win a title, every little thing matters, and you can't, because you went 10-7, you got smoked in a wild card game, feel like you've accomplished something. But Payton, and I get pushback on this, and I covered Mike Shanahan, so I think at least I have a fair assessment of it than most, because I covered Shanahan for 4 years in 96, 97, 98, 99, 2000. I guess it was 5 years. For the Times Call, and then I was a national NFL columnist for the defunct Broadband Sports. But Shanahan was a master play caller. He was, at that time, the best coach in the league about creating mismatches. of exploding mismatches with plays people had not seen, wrinkles on scheme. He had more wrinkles than a Sharpay with his offense. Did it help that he had Hall of Famers in Terrell Davis, Shannon Sharp, Gary Zimmerman, and John Elway? Yeah, I'm going to say yeah on that. And he had two outstanding receivers in Rod Smith and Ed McCaffrey, both who bought in blocking. He had the best fullback in the game for my money at that point in Howard Griffith. So, and every lineman on that front had been a Pro Bowler or All-Pro except for one. He was Neal. But Schlereth and Tony Jones and Zimmerman and Nayland. I mean, let's not get it confused. You were blending a mastermind, as Mike Litwin used to call Mike Shanahan. He did it to poke fun at him. Blending that type of IQ with some of the best players in the league at that time. But Shanahan was disciplined. Shanahan let people know it. He had that side eye, that look where he would turn and judge you with just one look out of that eye, that evil eye of his. And it was about holding guys accountable to detail. But he had a softer side too, where give guys extra room on the plane and make sure they had movies that they could have in their hotel room on the road, and find ways to make the locker room better. He did all that stuff behind the scenes, but he could be a hard ass at practice. I mean, I saw him make guys run that he thought were out of shape, including tight end Byron Chamberlain. I mean, he just embarrassed him, had him running around the field in Greeley. So there was an edge to Shanahan. And a lot of people think, it feels like when their memories of him that he was at a softer side. I did not see that covering him. And he had no problem insulting reporters. He did it in a more devious way of, did you watch the film? Did you play? Were you in the NFL? So this idea that he was just embracing the media and everyone in its kumbaya, that is not true. I lived it, again, 4.5, 5 years. And again, I could not appreciate him as a coach more. I still have a relationship with Coach Shanahan. But there's some of those similarities I see with Sean Payton. He's not afraid to pick a fight. He's not afraid to go after someone in a press conference if he needs to. He's not afraid to get after and torch a player a little bit to motivate him. And that first day when I was out there, he's running around like a shark. He's just got a shark, no wasted movement, just looking for someone to do something wrong so he could jump them, to remind them that if you're going to do something big, everything small matters. And so I had a chance during the presser to ask Peyton a couple of questions. And so we're going to have sound here. Danny Bailey, the great Danny Bailey behind the screen. We're going to drop some sound here. But the first answer is regarding what is more difficult, building a program or sustaining success in the NFL. And then the second part of, everyone talks about, there's the same question I asked Pat Surtain, if you listen to the earlier pod. Everyone talks about wanting to win a Super Bowl. Oh, that's our goal. What do you want to do? Win a Super Bowl. What has he seen in the commitment to this team that they're ready to embrace that goal? And that soundbite made a lot of newscasts because Sean Payton made it very clear he's not running from expectations. So let's hear first me asking Sean Payton, and this is a conversation I know he's had with Kenny Chesney, his good friend, about success and how to maintain it. But what is more difficult? Turning a program around, and he inherited an absolute dumpster fire from Nathaniel Hackett. Nathaniel Hackett, quickly. He might have been. Nathaniel Hackett was like being the valedictorian of your class if you're homeschooled. So let's understand the challenge and the mess that Peyton inherited. So I asked him, partly because of that, what is more difficult, building a program or sustaining success? Let's hear the two bites from Sean Payton.
So the startup part, I've only done one other time. In other words, I've experienced, and yet it's not like you get multiple opportunities and so things have to be in place for that to be successful. In other words, you can be hindered or you can be affected in a negative manner if things aren't in place and there's not a willingness to make change. And fortunately here, that wasn't the case, and one of the important things about this job. But then I would say that's sustained success, and we haven't looked at last year, for instance, as obviously we made progress, but getting to where we want to be is and then staying there, I think would probably be. It would depend on the organization. The first part of your question you asked, it's in some places is impossible, and so then that's not a good deal. That's a hard one. But if you're at the right place, I think the latter becomes mentally more challenging and keeping an edge with your team and then over a period of time you recycle a roster. That can happen. I saw that happen. So I think that can be a little bit more challenging. I think, look, it has to be a comfortable topic, but we're in such a league where this is a journey, and briefly yesterday I outlined a few things that are coming, but it starts more with the division and seeding, and we have to start faster than we have the last two, and so you try to how do I say this? You try to point at the nearest goal, and some of these ones that are more visible, but you can't be afraid of talking about the end game. That's got to be a comfortable subject, and then you've got to be comfortable saying, hey, look, this is what's required, and you don't get a best of 7. And so, but I think you start with some of the objectives that are a little bit more clearly visible in the short term.
Welcome back. I'm Troy Renck from the Denver Post. Again, you can get all my columns at denverpost.com/sports. You can see Luka Evans stuff there, Parker Gabriel stuff there, and of course, Sean Keeler. We have you covered during camp. Parker and Luka do the heavy lifting on the day-to-day stuff. There should be an update coming on Mike McGlinchey. He's the first guy who missed time on Thursday, who was not there in the team period. So we'll see what that looks like on Friday. Health's a big thing for this team. We understand that. Especially with their new guys. We'll get into a little bit of that later on early camp observations. But I love the fact that Payton wants all the smoke. He's the Marlboro man. He wants all the smoke. Give it to him. He wants his team to play on Monday night. He wants his team to play on Sunday night. He wants them to understand what that looks like in the spotlight. Because if you're going to win a championship, you have to be comfortable playing in big games. That's where it comes from. You got to be able to puff your chest out when the country's watching, and McGlinchey said earlier, play your best when your best is required. Or I always say, play your best when it matters most. And those prime time games when the country's watching, can you put it out there? Can you show out, show up, show out? And that's where Payton's coming from with this, where he said, it's got to be a comfortable topic. Can't run from the idea of the Super Bowl. Is it totally realistic? Not necessarily. Again, I think a successful season for the Broncos I believe they're going to win the AFC West. Again, my full final prediction will be after training camp to see with every team where they are injury-wise and, after 6 weeks of what it looks like. But I believe they can win the AFC West. They can win a playoff game. That would qualify as success. Even without winning the division, I could see them winning a playoff game, for instance, at Houston. That's the next step for this team. And Sean Payton understands that, and I absolutely love it. This is a guy with an eye for personnel. This is a guy that's created a culture. This is a guy that has a plan to win a title. That's why he came here. And now that after 2 years, only 2 years, that blinker's on, they're turning the corner, It's like, hey, you got to be comfortable talking about the end goal. But now you don't focus on the end goal. No good coach does. You focus on right is what is in front of you. That car you're passing in front of you. That lane you've got to switch. That is, as you do, and it's the old pennies in a jar. You just keep throwing them in the jar, and then you look up at the end of a month or 2 months, and man, you've got a lot of money. You've put the time in. You've made significant change. So you've got to focus on the minute, but you can't avoid the big picture that when you get there and go, oh, guys, guess the Super Bowl's coming up. We might as well win it. No, talk about it. Let it be known. This is who I think you are as a coach. I have confidence in you. Now show me that confidence and demonstrate it back in the way you practice and the way you play. Because I'm going to believe in you unless you give me a reason not to. And I'm going to talk about our team in terms of winning the title unless you give me a reason not to. Players taking ownership. We've talked about that on the podcast, how powerful that can be. And you know what helps that as we transition? It helps that you have a competent quarterback. And after the absolute carousel of madness following Peyton Manning, those 13 quarterbacks, you land on Bo Nix. Sean Payton picks him, handpicks, 6 quarterback picked in the first round. Pretty much universally panned as a bad pick, as a guy who really should have been picked in the 30s. I say this all the time. It's about scheme. It's about team. That matters. It's about having a vision for a player. And if he's your guy at quarterback, who cares what the league thinks? Now, again, if he's a 7th rounder and you're taking him in the first, that's different. There's a baseline of talent required. But something interesting happened with Sean Payton and Bo Nix this week as the Broncos open camp. Payton, without saying it, while talking about Bo Nix and kind of picking up where they left off to some degree, and the leadership he has shown and the ability to read defenses faster, get the ball out more quickly, and his comfort level in the huddle. Remember, he's getting all the first team reps now. We're not in a quarterback derby with Jared Stidham and Zach Wilson. It's the Bo show. Last year, Bo's time. This year, Bo's team. But in talking about that, Peyton basically said, why don't we give the kid some credit? Are we sure it's me? And it surprised me because a lot of people, myself included, believe that Sean Payton microwaved Bo Nix's development. But what he said was interesting. From being around him now for a year and a half, starting, about right at a year and a half, beginning with the draft and those private workouts in March before the draft, he is saying this kid would have been good anywhere. Yeah, he's good here. It fits here. We have a good relationship. Listen to kind of what he wants. We do a little bit more what I want. I think that you're going to see that this year. But let's not dismiss this kid's talent. And after, what do you have? Like 4 interceptions over the first 2 games, and he had, 2 over the next 11? Bo Nix, over like the final 12 games of the season, was a top 10 quarterback, folks, statistically. In every way. Completion percentage, touchdowns to pick ratio, running the football, like the show he put on at New Orleans. He was an effective quarterback. And if not for Jaden Daniels, he would have had, for me, the best rookie quarterback season of all time. Daniels did it in the clutch. Daniels did it in the 4th quarter. Daniels did it with the game on the line. Bo hasn't done that. He did it for the most part at Kansas City, a game they should have won. But what Sean Payton was saying is, how about we give the kid some credit? And he understood, and I do believe this, having covered the combine for roughly 10 years now, when an assessment is made on a quarterback, analysts, highly visible analysts, have a real difficult time not doubling down. So he's successful because, or he got lucky, or it's the players around him. They have a real hard time getting off their initial assessment opinion of a quarterback when they feel like, in Bo Nix's case, there is no way the 6th quarterback taken in the first round can be this good. It can't be their assessment. Something, an anomaly had to happen. So the easy thing is to credit Peyton. And he does deserve credit, as does Davis Webb, and as same goes for Joe Lombardi. That all works together, and the quarterback room with Jared Stidham and Zach Wilson last year. But all of it works together, and there's no doubt. But what Peyton's saying is give Nick some credit here. And we saw that with the argument on the sideline, the leadership, the personality, the intelligence and IQ of the understanding of the offense that, like, no, damn it, I wanted to run this. This is what we should have run. And to stand up to your coach like that said everything. That was the day I wrote, like, that's the day he became the Broncos starting quarterback in every way. But Peyton said it. He articulated it. Like, give the kid some credit. And here's the second part of that. You're like, of course the coach is going to defend his quarterback. I mean, Peyton defended Russell Wilson 2 years ago in that same press conference until that relationship soured. So that's part of being the head coach. But he meant it. The players around it, you can see how they react to Bo. But here's something even more impressive. And these polls are not scientific with every guy in the NFL, but the NFL Network does its top 100 every year. They pass those things out, and the players fill out. It's like usually 20 players on a ballot, 20 to 25. That's how they ultimately get to 100. It's not the perfect process, but it does show which guys have jumped in their peers' eyes. Bo Nix ranked 64. As a rookie, 64. The only other quarterback in the top 100, rookie quarterback, Jaden Daniels. So maybe Sean Payton's onto something, folks. Maybe the analysts were wrong. It's easy for me to say because I was bullish on Nix. And I've been wrong on players plenty of times. But this is how you see teams get sideways when executives double down on players. And this is how teams fail, not wanting to admit they were wrong on the assessment and on the scouting report of a player. I believe Bo Nix is better than we thought. And there's no way he's reached the ceiling when they had one of the worst running attacks in the league last year. Not the line's fault. You're going to see it much better this year, in my opinion, with J.K. Dobbins, R.J. Harvey, McLaughlin, whatever combination, if Esteme's in there, they're going to run the ball better. And he's got Evan Ingram. And already that connection in camp is showing up in the middle of the field. So give the summary Cliff Notes version of this. Sean Payton and Bo Nix work. They fit. There was a vision for the player when they drafted him. But let's give the kid some credit, folks. You act like some of his critics that if he was on any other team, he would be incompetent. Stop it. Just stop it. He's a good player. Can he get to top 10? I believe he'll be top 15 by the end of the year. Can he scoot into the top 10 in a few years? I mean, that's on Bo. But let's not pretend this kid isn't good and that he's part of the reason he had success, especially as the season developed. And why can he be better? As we've talked about in our final part of our podcast today. And thank you so much for your support, Broncos Country. I just picked up another sponsor this week. So if you are interested in sponsoring, reach out to me on my email, Troy E. Renck, TroyerEnck @gmail.com. And we can talk. Looking for at least one more sponsor if it's available. But I had a wonderful conversation for a new sponsor I'm going to be welcoming starting 1st of August. I cannot tell you when I talk to a sponsor and they love the podcast and I hear that from folks when I see them out and about. It means a lot to me to know that you guys appreciate this information, appreciate what I'm doing. I could not do it certainly without Danny Bailey and Nate Lundy and these guys. It would have no chance. But I want to try to give you insight, tell it like it is, and that's where we'll finish the pod today, is a camp observations. Ingram has jumped out. When you see him out there, folks, you're going to be like, holy crap, he's the same size as Cortland Sutton. And he is. But he's a tight end. He's a flex tight end. He can win in the middle of the field. How much will that help Bo Nix? J.K. Dobbins, for me, is going to be the starting running back. Now, you got all of camp to go, but he's getting first-team reps. There's no way in hell they signed J.K. Dobbins to come in as a backup. Now, if he comes in and didn't look healthy because of the guaranteed money, would he be vulnerable to get cut? Of course. That's the NFL. He's got to stay healthy, but he is a smart, bright guy. The way Sean Payton talked about him in his first presser, you can tell Sean Payton does not suffer fools from the media and certainly from players. He wants smart, bright players who get it. J.K. Dobbins gets it. If he's healthy, I believe he will be the starter. Eventually, R.J. Harvey may take over that role, but Dobbins looks the part. Defensively, the two guys, there's multiple guys that are jumping. The defensive line is just unreal, the pressure they're getting with Zach Allen and Nick Bonito, Malcolm Roach, John Franklin. That whole group is just absolutely writing a diary of havoc every day. But when you get down to kind of the new guys, who's really, I'm telling you, Dre Greenlaw, they have not had a backer like this since Danny Trevathan. And he's healthy. He's in all the drills. He's doing exactly what you want. He brings an intensity and energy you can feel, even in practice. And Talanoa Hufanga, and they call him Huff, similarly brings this energy, this smile, these good vibes. There's a little bit of Malcolm Roach in him. You've all listened to Roach's pod. A guy who shows up, loves his job, loves to work. I just cannot see how this defense is going to be, how it won't be better. If they're healthy for the most part, and the sacks may not be the same as 63, but let's say it's 55 sacks and it's way more takeaways because you're leading. But those are some of the guys that have jumped. Q Robinson, the outside linebacker, keep an eye on him. He's making a solid early impression. That he's just, you wonder now, because I thought he would be a guy that would play special teams, but just keep an eye on that. And while people are trying to write off DeAndre Tillman, I'm not, because he gives them size. They don't have at edge. He's able to support the run when he's in there. And I like his game, but keep an eye on Q Robinson. He's a guy that is just sneaky. You can see why he was a 5-star at Alabama, that if it all comes together, maybe his best football is ahead of him. And when you watch him, there's some stuff there where you're like, okay, I get it. I see why they liked him. So Broncos fan, I know when those gates open, those 800 fans had a chance to jump. Well, gates, it's into a parking lot, into the bleachers. We're excited this morning to get out there. Can't wait to see some of you there. If you see me, holler, wave, say hello. It's that time of year. Be optimistic. You've earned this, Broncos country. You were in the darkness. Wander into the darkness. Now you got a coach who gets it. You got a quarterback who's definitely on the rise. And you got a defense that should, if healthy, be the best, if not top 3 in the NFL. Time to enjoy it. Embrace the optimism. Embrace the expectations. I could not do this pod without Darby Hoggatt, my A1 from day one, the sponsor. He's the best. Hoggatt Injury Law. Give him a call if you need somebody in that regard. And I could not do it certainly without Danny Bailey behind the screen, Nate Lundy of Mile High Sports, Broncos country. I do this pod for you. Happiness, that begins with me. Go out there and have a great day.